Greetings and good morning. It is Money Monday, or you could call it Madness Monday. But whatever you want to call it, it is what you make it. Now, that's just some word of truth for this Monday. As everybody is starting their work week off, I'm actually finishing up my work week today. So while this video is premiering and you guys are sitting here watching this show, this podcast, or whatever you want to call it, I am actually at work. But I do want to say thank you guys for supporting the channel because I don't say that enough. So if you are sitting here watching this during the premiere or you're watching this later on in the evening or in the afternoon, I want to say thank you guys for supporting the channel. By the way, before I start getting into these topics that I got for you guys today, I also want to say head over to Patreon. My Patreon is only $3. Half-Ass Pod has a Patreon. There's only one video up right now. I'm going to try and do a weekly release of videos. So it'll be one video a week going up on a Patreon, at least for now, until I get more traffic, more patrons. But I would say head over there. It's stuff that we can't put here on YouTube. There's also interviews and stuff that I'm trying to get together for the Patreon to make it special. Stuff that I don't want to put on YouTube, stuff that wouldn't be able to be monetized on YouTube or whatever. So make sure you guys head over to Patreon. There's only one video up there right now. But again, there's going to be a weekly release of at least one video a week. I'm going to be putting up on Patreon. So that is my promise to you guys. So head over there. Only $3 a month. So and it's the uncanceled corn tier. So make sure you guys subscribe to the Patreon as well. Now, with that down and out of the way, I do want to say, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe on this video as well. Never thought I'd ever... Look, I've been doing this for almost 2 years at this point. Surprisingly. And I always made fun of YouTubers about saying, hit that like and subscribe. And look, man, it makes me sick every single time I say that. But hey, look, it's what you got to do to be successful on this platform. So yeah, hit that like and subscribe, guys, and all that other bullshit. Now, with that down and out of the way, I want to welcome you guys here to Half-Ass Pod. Now, this isn't a special kind of episode or any kind of series that I'm doing. I'm just getting back in the groove of trying to upload more content for this page, for this channel. Because I have some very faithful subscribers here on Half-Ass Pod on YouTube. And I want to say, and some true real day ones that have been watching this podcast since the very first video. So I want to say thank you guys. Some of you have been watching or listening since the SoundCloud days. Thank you guys as well. But let's get into this shit. Because you all know, with this first topic that I'm about to bring up, you all, and if you haven't seen my review of Birds of Prey and Harley Quinn and the fabulous emancipation of Harley Quinn, or whatever the fuck you want to call it. But if you guys have not seen my review of Birds of Prey from last year, which was the last movie I saw in theaters, I suggest you guys go back and watch that. Because I hated that movie. Now, with this first topic, just a couple days ago, just to give you guys a little background on what was going on Twitter, I started seeing Black Canary HBO series trending along with Black Canary. So I decided, you know what? Twitter must be up to something because there's no way in hell that the DCEU is going to risk another loss with giving Black Canary her own HBO series, let alone Journey Smollett's Black Canary, which was I'm not gonna say it was it was so awful, because even a CW version of Black Canary was pretty bad too. But with that being said, my own opinion of Black Canary from Birds of Prey, from the movie Birds of Prey last year, it was bad. That every character in that movie sucked. Now, Black Mass, he had a little bit of a height in that movie, and then that got dwindled. That got thrown out of the window. Victor Zsasz, he jobbed. He was the number one jobber in that movie, if you ask me. Look, as bad as Birds of Prey was, am I saying that DCEU would not be successful in making a Black Canary HBO series? Yes, I am saying that. Yes, I am saying that Journey Smollett, because I was seeing these tweets and people were saying, oh, Journey Smollett, like this tweet, Journey Smollett was born to play Black Canary. She was the best Black Canary we ever had. We only had two. It's not like where it's Batman, where we've had 5 or 6 different iterations and 5 or 6 different actors that played Batman. And you can say, or just like Joker, where there's been, 4 or 5? And you can say, oh, there's only been 2 Black Canaries. There's been a chick from Arrow, and then there's been this one. Both of them sucked. Now, I would argue and say that their storylines were pretty fucking horrible as well. And honestly, I wouldn't even say Black Canary's story in Birds of Prey was horrible, but it was done poorly. And now I understand now, this is no hate towards Journey Smollett or anything like that. I am actually a fan of Journey Smollett as an actress. I've been watching her since I was a kid, since the Selma Lord Selma days. So I was excited when she was cast as Black Canary. You all can go back when I covered that with her being cast. I was excited because I was like, oh, I love Journey Smollett. Now her brother Juicy is another story, but that's for another time and another podcast. But I went into this movie not necessarily with high hopes, but I had somewhat of an expectation when it came to, you got Journey Smollett playing a comic book character, playing Black Canary, who I played with in the Injustice video games, who I've seen in some of the old DC animated movies, who we just saw in Arrow and watched for 6 years on that show. But then I went and watched the movie, and I was upset. I was legit upset because, again, I didn't have high hopes for this movie, but I thought this movie was going to be good. I thought this movie was even going to have a pretty good turnout in terms of box office. None of that happened. None of that happened. So now here we are, a year and 3 months later, and now people are clamoring for Black Canary having her own HBO series of all characters. Look, thankfully, because I did my research. Thankfully, this is not happening. This came out of nowhere. This is just a Twitter mob trying to get Black Canary, trying to get Journey Smollett to come back and play Black Canary. Let me tell you something. Her iteration of Black Canary, her version of Black Canary, unless they do what they did with Joker from Suicide Squad and Snyder Cut, and just make them completely different, I do not see this happening. And this turns into a much larger story, because we've seen the DCEU do stupid shit like this ever since the Snyder Cut. You can talk about the Snyder Cut, the Snyder cult, trying to sabotage the box office, and trying to sabotage the critic reviews of Godzilla vs. Kong. We saw that. We saw that. We saw that the Snyder Cult tried to get Deathstroke his own DCEU movie. We saw the Snyder Cult come out and say, you guys better give us a Batfleck movie. Look, man, I love Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne and Batman as much as the next person. But let me tell you something. If Ben Affleck doesn't want to come back, if he says, look, I am done with that part of my life, let him be done. If Warner Brothers says, we're done with Zack Snyder, with the Snyder, quote-unquote, Snyderverse, and we're done with Ben Affleck as Batman, we need to move on and try and start from scratch. Or at least try and build on top of what we already have. Let them do that. But the fact that we are sitting here on April 10th and we're talking layered performance. Look at this. Black Canary is a fantastic character, and Journey gave such a layered performance. She's one of my favorite castings in a comic book movie, and she deserves it. Look, I get film is subjective. That is the one thing I've learned from the film pundit greats, right? From the John Campias, the Robert Meyer Burnett's. That is the one thing I've learned from them. Is film is subjective. That you should never criticize someone because of their opinion on film. I get it. And it's the same thing about sports, except sports is actual facts and statistics because it deals with real results. And film does to a certain, it depends on what you're talking about in terms of film. You're talking about box office, there's stats. It's not really subjective. It's fact. Birds of Prey was a fucking disaster. Black Canary, to me, was not the highlight of this movie. Black Canary was dumbed down. Her character was dumbed down in this movie. She was made out to be this depressing fucking character that just so happened to know how to fight. And it was the same thing they did with, who was it? Huntress or whoever it was, right? I forget the actress's name. It's like Mary something, right? Look, all the characters in that movie, besides Harley Quinn and Black Mask, they all looked like they were depressed. I am tired of watching these. Look, man, and we're gonna get into this whole thing of superhero stuff here in our next topic with Invincible, because I'm about to give you guys my opinion on the next topic on Invincible, but. This whole having to be dark, but also trying to, dude, pick a fucking lane. Pick a genre when you're doing your superhero movies. Because either you should go about the way Marvel does their stuff, or you should do it your own way. But stop trying to dip in every single fucking genre of entertainment when doing a movie like that. This was very risky, all right? Birds of Prey, coming out with a Birds of Prey movie that soon was very risky. And we obviously know now that's why it failed. It's because you made a movie about all these characters that I'm not saying nobody knows about, but your average friend doesn't know about. Your average moviegoer does not know about. And the way they introduced these characters was fucking horrible. Look, I'm not going to sit here and try and rehash my thoughts about Birds of Prey, but I do want to say this. These Twitter mobs and these DCEU mobs, whether it's the Snyder Cult or whether whoever's behind this crap, stop it. Stop it. We don't need another Black Canary movie. We don't need... Look, man, unless you're going to do Black Canary, I don't want to say do Black Canary right, because there's elements where they did get her right, like this scene. They got her right in that scene, but it just didn't do it for me. I wasn't like, oh my God, Black Canary, finally, yes, we got to see it. No, I was sitting there like, just took me out of it. This movie had already taken me out of the suspension of disbelief. I'm not saying that we should never get a Black Canary HBO series, HBO Max series, or whatever you want to call it. What I'm saying is this is too soon to do it. It is too soon to try and get a Black Canary HBO series. Too soon. Because you fucked it up a year ago. You fucked it up a year ago. Now, can I say 2 years from now? Or a year and a half from now? Can we get a Black Canary series on HBO Max? Look, I would probably say your best bet would be to do a Black Canary HBO series. Yes. However, Do not put Black Canary on the big screen unless you know for a fact what you're doing is going to work. Because Marvel does. Marvel did it. And they're still doing it. Now, I'm still arguing. I'm still arguing the decision for them to not only push Black Widow to July, but to release it on Disney Plus as well. I question that, and I will, till the end of time, I will question that decision because you're only killing your box office grab. But again, we've already talked about that before. Don't need to rehash that. And we'll talk more about that as we get closer to July and the movie releases. But again, I'm a fan of Black Canary, the character. And I was a fan of this casting before I saw the movie. Look, I wish Jodie Smollett the best in her career. Always have, always will. She's always been an amazing actress. To me, I feel like she's underrated when it comes to talent and when it comes to being an actress and actually being able to draw emotion, because you look at her in other movies and other shows and she's been able to do it. She was on my favorite show of all time, Friday Night Lights. I love Jodie Smollett. So again, this isn't me trying to bash Jodie Smollett, but her iteration of Black Canary was horrible. And it was an embarrassment. This entire movie, all of these characters in this movie were a fucking embarrassment, including Harley Quinn. So this is the last thing I'm going to say about this before we move on. I see these comments, I see these tweets, everybody asking for a Black Canary HBO series. Guess what? The DCEU loves embarrassing themselves. We are not getting a Black Canary series. Get over it. We don't need it. I know a lot of you people want it. But I'm telling you guys, it's not going to do what you guys think it's going to do. It's not going to be as good as you guys think it's going to be unless they get someone that's going to be able to do it right. I keep telling you guys, if it works, it doesn't need to be. If it's not broken, don't fix it. If it works, it works. But if it doesn't work, stop trying to make it fucking work. Then again, that's what the DCEU does all the time, right? That's what Warner Brothers does all the time, right? Just like the Snyder Cut was not needed. Yes, it was a good cut of the Justice League. It was a better cut of the original Justice League, but not that much better than the original Justice League. We still got the same result. I like the Dark Side stuff, but at the end of the day, it was the same movie. Now, Black Canary, I love you, but you are not getting your own HBO Max series. It's just not happening. And the second it happens, guess what? If it happens, I will be the first to come back on here and apologize. I just did that last episode, right? I came back on here and I apologized to everybody when I was wrong. I said, hey, I was wrong, and I came on here and apologized because they proved me wrong. But I don't think Black Canary, of all characters in the DC universe, is going to get their own HBO Max series, especially in 2021 or 2022. Rightfully so. Now let's move on. Next topic. Now, there's this show on Amazon Prime, or Prime Video, whatever you want to call it, that has been taking people by storm. I've been hearing about it for weeks now, and you know, I've been hearing all these people talk, it's an animated superhero show, blah blah blah, whatever. And I'm thinking, okay, and it's on Prime Video. Okay, they already got The Boys. Okay, cool. But then you hear about how it shows gore, it's violent, whatever. I'm like, huh. Okay, so basically Amazon Prime is pretty much building their own like superhero catalog, right? Trying to make good superheroes look bad, whatever. Not even trying to make them look bad, but just showing that you know dark side of superheroes, right? Which is what everybody ironically wants to see nowadays. It was cool for the first few years. It's been cool for over 10 years or whatever, especially with the Dark Knight, because Batman is dark in a way. Certain iterations are. Most iterations of Batman are dark, especially in this day and age. But the fact that now we are in an age, and this is coming because before I actually get into my opinion on Invincible, I want to say this. We're in an age now where everywhere you turn, it's superhero this, superhero that. One thing that I can't really grasp too much is the fact that 10 years ago or 15 years ago or 20 years ago, Spider-Man meant something. The X-Men movies meant something. Even on Amazon Prime 2 years ago, when The Boys came out, it meant something. Seeing that kind of representation of superheroes, whether it's based off a comic book or not. Apparently, every superhero show now is based off a comic. Like, there's shows that have comic books that I never even knew even had, like this show. Like, this is based off a comic book, and I'm just like, okay, whatever. Like, cool. All right, cool. And it's done by Robert Kirkman. Cool, whatever. But now it's 2021. Now it's 2021, and every single streaming service has something superhero related on it. Has whether it's superhero movies, superhero shows. We just now saw where Netflix pretty much stole all the Spider-Man movies under Stars, who is owned by Lionsgate. So pretty much stole Spider-Man pulled Spider-Man from under rug. Pulled the rug from under Lionsgate in terms of Spider-Man movies. Sorry about that. And they paid what, $1 billion or something like that, right? Look, Netflix is they're clearly building on top of their conglomerate of catalogs. Don't get me wrong. Especially after losing The Office, I'm sure they are going to need these big names to carry them. But I sat down, despite my uninterest or my disinterest in this show Invincible. I sat down about a week and a half ago, started watching it. And I got to the first episode. And what happened in the first episode? The entire time I'm sitting here watching episode 1, where it's pretty much this team that is loosely based off of, I wouldn't even say loosely. I feel like loosely is probably an overstatement. This team was based off of Justice League. The same thing from The Boys. And I'm sitting there frustrated because I'm like, is there any superhero? Can anybody be original? Can anyone be original? And I'm not saying that The Boys isn't original, but I like, because yes, these storylines are not original. However, these storylines are original. I'm sorry, these storylines are original. However, the characters and their powers aren't. They're clearly not. You pretty much got Superman in The Boys, and you pretty much got Superman in Invincible. Technically, you got 2 Superman in Invincible. Last name Grayson. There's billions of names in the world, and you pick Grayson. Now, again, I'm not sitting here shitting on the comics or trying to shit on the show, because Invincible actually, after the first episode, from the very end of the first episode, where Superman, not Superman, but Omni-Man, whatever the fuck you want to call him, I think his name's Omni-Man. It's been like a week since I watched the show. But, because I'm not that interested in this show. It's a good show. It's not great. It's not a show that I'm like, I can't wait until Friday to see it. Like, it's not one of those shows. It's like, I'll watch it when I watch it, whatever. But it's not a terrible show. It's not great. It's not a show that I would recommend to anyone at all. Not even at the least. I wouldn't say, hey, you should check out Invincible. No. But, I like the voice actors. I like the cast that they have for it. I really like the voice actors that they have for it. Or the actors that are voicing these characters that they have for it. Because most of them aren't voice actors, just normal actors. I like that aspect. It's pretty cool. They got old Carl Winslow from Family Matters voicing, I think, like the principal or something like that in the show. That was pretty cool. But we live in a day and age now where I am very frustrated. And I never thought I would be frustrated. At everywhere you turn, it is superhero overload. Never thought I'd say that. I never thought I'd say that in a million years. I never thought I would say we have too much superhero content. But there's a reason why I'm saying that. Because 5 years ago, I never would have said that. 5 years ago, I would have said, bring on all the superhero content. 2 years ago, I would have said, bring on the superhero content. 6 months ago, I would have said, there is no such thing as superhero overload. But now I am. And it's not why you think. Because while the quality is not terrible, we are now getting to the point, because everyone was talking about the show like it was the best thing since sliced bread. So then I sit down and watch it, and I'm like, the first episode, I almost didn't even finish the first episode. I really would have gone on here and went on a rant if I didn't finish the first episode, but then I would have looked like a fucking dumbass because I didn't watch it until the end. But something told me to just wait until the end. Just at least watch this first episode, and then you can quit. And then I finished the end. I got to the end of the episode where pretty much the Justice League gets killed by their version of Superman, right? Which is this guy, Omni-Man. And when that happened, I was like, okay, I'm interested. I'm glad they went that route. It was pretty cool seeing the way that this turned out. But then we get to episode 2. Episode 2 was pretty good. Then I get to episode 3, and I'm like, no, this was pretty bad. Then I get to episode 4, and I'm like, I'm uninterested in these characters. I don't care about. We see this all the time. The main character is late to a date, and the girl gets mad, and you can't tell her why. And now I'm starting to get worried, because before anyone wants to say like, oh, Corn, you're not, you got to give these superhero stuff a chance, blah, blah, blah. Trust me. The majority of the superhero content that we have nowadays, I actually enjoy. Like I said, I enjoyed the Snyder Cut. I didn't love the Snyder Cut. I wasn't like, oh my God, it's the greatest thing ever I've ever seen on film. No. However, after watching this show, I truly felt in my stomach, I said, oh my God. Superhero movies are going to start to die out like Westerns. Yeah, we may be a long way away from that, but maybe not. Because while all these streaming services are trying to dip their feet into the superhero genre, into the comic book genre, guess what? The quality is going to go down. the want and the need for superhero content is going to go down. You want to know why? Because it's going to be everywhere. You're going to be able to go to Apple TV and superheroes. You're going to be able to go to Disney Plus, which obviously would probably say it right now is carrying the superhero genre, and it has been since its inception back in 2008 or 9 of the MCU. Not saying that Spider-Man and X-Men back in the day weren't, and Blade as well, but Blade, I don't think people really looked at Blade as, I mean, yes, technically he is a Marvel character, yes, but did people really look at it as like Blade as is like the superhero genre, or do they look at it as like a thriller or an action movie? Just saying. But now I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments or whatever. But back to the Western statement, I don't think that I'm wrong. Go back. Every single aspect of Western movies has been done. It was done in a span of 40 or 50 years. I mean, you go back to the 90s. That was the death of Westerns. I mean, yes, Westerns were probably dying out in the 80s. But again, I wasn't alive in the 80s, so I can't really speak too much about that. But I can say, me being born in the early 90s, I didn't see too many Westerns, unless they were from back in the day. And then I started learning more and more about Westerns that, it was this whole big thing. Everybody wanted to do Westerns. All these directors wanted to touch Westerns all of a sudden. In the 50s and 60s. Every studios, every production studio wanted to do Western movies. Everybody had this want and need for Western movies. Until we got too much. And then we ended up with Texas Rangers, with Ashton Kutcher and Usher frontlining a Western movie. And while a lot of people will say that was pretty much the death of Westerns, like that's when we knew the Westerns were done, and I agree, I don't think that it was a terrible movie. It could have been better, obviously, but I don't think it was as terrible as most people say it was. It was still a movie I can sit through and watch again. I probably won't, but I could. But it's a symbol. It's the symbol of Western movies, of the death of Western movies. And now we are starting to see superhero overload. We are starting to see too many fucking superhero movies. Look, Invincible is an okay show. But after watching that show, I could not stomach the feeling of, oh yeah, we're fine, we're perfectly fine. Superhero movies are still gonna, and they are. We're all still clamoring for and asking for more superhero stuff, more superhero stuff, more superhero stuff. Now Marvel, Disney Plus is starting to shape every single year. I think for like the next like so many years, like they're gonna start making it to where we're only gonna get like maybe a 2-week, 3-week break before we jump right back into the next MCU series or next MCU movie, which to me is great because the content doesn't stop. But that's just the MCU alone. We're not talking about the Sony Spider-Man, whatever you want to call it, verse. We're not talking a DCEU that is in shambles right now. Still don't know what the fuck they want to do. Hopefully Black Adam, the Black Adam movie will help save it. The Flash movie will help save it. Shazam 2 will help save it. Aquaman 2 will help save it. But then you got The Boys, which is doing pretty good. You still got Doom Patrol. You got Titans that's getting ready. Season 3 is getting ready to come out, which I am very excited for. But look, The Boys on Amazon, great show. Great show. But something told me, and I didn't want to believe it. I did not want to believe it, but something told me that once The Boys came out, it was going to be more shows and more movies like The Boys. We're going to show you this gory side of superheroes. We're going to show you this side of superheroes that you think they're good when they're on camera, but they're actually bad when they get back to their headquarters and blah, 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 whatever. Because now The Boys is getting a spinoff on top of adding another, an Avengers type, team to the show as well. Like, look, and that's interesting and all. But guess what's happening? We're starting to see the likeness of these very same superheroes that we've been watching for over 15 years at this point. Now, look, the reason why I brought this up is because, one, I wanted to give my opinion on Invincible. And again, it's an okay show. It's not like I can't sit through it. But I'll watch it when I watch it. It's just so that I say, hey, look, I ain't got nothing else to watch. I've caught up on everything. Like, I'm watching The Wire right now for the first time. And I'm in season 3. And I think the only thing that gets annoying in that show with me is, one, how slow it is, and two, how slow the story is, and two, the main character McNulty gets drunk every night. Literally, every single episode, this dude's drunk off his ass. But anyways, we're not here to talk about that. But what I'm saying is, the point I'm trying to get across is, that show is more interesting to me than this show. And it shouldn't be. But it's superhero overload. Superhero overload. Look, man, all I'll say about this is that Amazon needs to be careful. All these other streaming platforms need to be careful. Peacock needs to be careful. Apple TV needs to be careful. We know it's going to happen. We know these guys are going to come out with their own superhero shit. But to what extent are we going to be able to say, hey, let's just slow down? That's all I'm asking. Let's just slow down. Now, we know the MCU is not slowing down, but it's working. Amazon Prime not slowing down because it's working. DCEU is somewhat working. But when is enough enough? When is enough enough? Now, for our final topic. This is good news. Henry Golding's Snake Eyes, G.I. Joe Origins, is coming sooner than we thought. Now, this comes yesterday from the AV Club, Film AV Club. And I'm not saying they broke the news. But I chose this article because it's a pretty damn good article. I'm not gonna read it. You guys can, look this up over. I'll probably put the link in the description. But I want to talk about the most important news. Paramount and Hasbro, and Deadline broke the news, by the way. Paramount and Hasbro have decided to move this movie up from October 22nd to July 23rd. This is great news. Because in a year where we've seen movies get pushed 3 months later, where we see movies get pushed a year later, James Bond, Fast and Furious. In a year where we're starting to see movies not only get pushed, but also streaming on their streaming platform on the same day of its theatrical release. But now Paramount has decided to do something about all of this. They said, hey, movie theaters are open back up. We're almost at 100%. Vaccines are now at the easy process stage, at the easy access stage now. Pretty much anybody can access these vaccines now in America. Let's decide to push this movie up. To move this movie up. Let's not push it back. Let's move it up. Now, this movie looks. Look, we haven't seen any trailers or anything yet. I'm sure we will with this movie coming out in as early as July. Look, we haven't even gotten a Shang-Chi trailer yet or Eternals trailer. I know. I bet you complain about that every single freaking time I get on here. But I wanted to end this video with saying this. I am so glad to see G.I. Joe Origins Snake Eyes coming to theaters. And not just coming to theaters later in the year, but in July, at the end of July. So in the summer, where superhero movies have always been prominent. This is good news. This is amazing news. I cannot wait to see this movie. We haven't even seen a trailer yet. I enjoyed the first two G.I. Joes, although the second one was But they killed Channing Tatum's character in it, so that was pretty ballsy, and I liked it. I liked that decision. I can't wait for this movie. This is gonna be awesome. I don't even care about the story. I just want to see Snake Eyes just go ham. He's always been an awesome character. To me, my favorite character of the G.I. Joe series. So this is going to be awesome. And it's a lot of people's favorite character of the G.I. Joe series. So this is going to be awesome. I can't wait for this. It's getting its theatrical release July 23rd. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. With that all being said, thank you guys again for joining me here on the Half-Ass Pod, supporting the channel. Make sure you guys hit that like, subscribe. Make sure you guys go and join my Patreon at Half-Ass Pod. But I am Corn. I am me. This is Half-Ass Pod. And I, my friends, am OUT.